Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name is Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
It's me, Nolan.
And this is episode 349, which means next episode we will be celebrating our 7-year anniversary.
Seven. Lucky 7.
Is it?
I don't know where the other 7s came from.
Slot machine.
Ooh, good point.
Okay.
If you want to be a part of our lucky number 7 episode, you can call into the show live via our Discord on Saturday, October 15th from 10 to 12 Central. 10 to 12 Central. Come into our Discord channel. All of that information is in our show notes. You can then hop into our general voice channel where you will be greeted by one of the representatives from our community. And then over time, as soon as we can get through the line and get to you, you'll come in. You will have about 30 seconds or so to pitch the game that you want us to play for episode 351. Come and be a part of our special episode.
Now, there will be a cutoff because I got to get lunch at some point. You know what I mean? Like, if there are a million people in there, I mean,
then
some of y'all.
We'll get through 999,000.
Well,
won't be able to hit all million.
Yeah, that's true.
Steam Deck is now available without a reservation. And out of the three of us, Nolan, I know that it was you that got on the wait list months back. So I'm sure that now that it's on demand for everybody, you've already received yours and spent a lot of time playing it. How is the Steam Deck so far?
Stop trolling me like that. You know that's not true. All right, look. I reserved the big granddaddy, like, you know, the really big one with the big hard drive and all that. And that was a long time ago, and they said check back late October, and that's when it's projected for you to be able to order it. Nice. So I haven't been playing any Steam games lately, so I haven't logged into Steam to see the message that I missed about a month ago saying, your Steam Deck's ready. We're only going to hold it for like a few hours. It literally was like a really short amount of time, and I was like,
hours.
What? It was like 1 day, which is still short, and I'm like...
That's 24 hours.
Well, when you compare 1 day to the months of waiting I've done, that's ridiculous. Like, of course, like they did that on purpose so that they could have more units or something. But anyways.
Short. But then they felt bad about it and just released them generally. So
yes, and I'm worried that they're going to sell out like PS5s, you know? Like, I want one, but I'm not right now ready to spend that much money, but I want it very badly.
So you have been on a waitlist and do not have your Steam Deck, do not own a Steam Deck, and are not even on the list or anything. You're just going to be like any other pleb.
There's no list. Yes, I am, and that's on me, I guess, but Steam needed to, like, text me, call me, email me, they come to my house. They needed to notify me.
Slide into your DM.
Yeah.
Yes, all of those things. Join our Discord server. They should have done all that before taking mine away. So,
well, do let me know when you get one. No,
you didn't.
It is a minnow joke, a minnow pun. And I'm sorry if that's not sophisticated enough for you. But
I'm finna leave.
Wow.
Finn, nice. And then Kenny?
No, I can't make mine.
He made a joke when he said that. What is he?
Get there.
No, I didn't. There's literally not a joke.
Oh, there's another one.
There's another one.
What is he saying?
There's not.
Him being
you guys
silent
think I'm
is a
up to
joke.
Something fishy, and I'm not.
Like in our retro game of the week, Darius, Gaiden.
Overview.
Darius Twin. Oops. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to get that out of the way. I'm going to say that a lot because I'm used to saying Darius Twin. Darius Gaiden is a side-scrolling shooter that was released in 1994 in the arcade. It was developed and published by Taito. This is the 5th game in the Darius series. We have played the first consumer release called Darius Twin on episode 141. And while Gaiden was originally released in the arcade, it did have a few notable ports. Those ports being the Sega Saturn, PlayStation, and PC. Now, Darius Twin has become kind of a famous episode maybe not the episode itself, but the fact that we played it and that Dustin adores that game and Kenny and I kind of like pooped on it. A meme was born, and so here we are with another Darius game. This is exciting for me, at least.
We've largely got space side-scrolling shooter haters on this show, is what our experience has been.
I'm not a hater of the genre itself. I judge the book by its cover.
Oh, so you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to play and enjoy and get good at the games, and the unfortunate thing is that y'all aren't good. The crazy thing is that Nolan did the first play this week, and we kept, you haven't looked, but we kept getting dumb comments like Nolan is good at first-person shooters. Nolan is good
and that was literally my first try, and I died quite a bit, which anyone would with the first
sure.
time you play a game, but there's your evidence right there. That's not why you think it's because we're bad. Kenny is. I'm definitely not. See, he admits it. It's just, that's the setup for this episode, and that's why I'm happy to be here.
They did not give Darius Twin the credit that it deserved when we played. I would admit that Darius Twin is not the best, and that I had not the best out of all of the side-scrolling shooters, and that I had legacy attachment to that. I'll say all of that. But that was my only experience with the series, with the franchise. So Darius Gaiden is my second experience with the franchise, and while there are a lot of similarities, there's also a lot of differences as well, and it'll be interesting to talk about those as we get into it. But you did mention that it came out first in the arcade. The ports, from my understanding and research, are incredibly faithful to the arcade. The PlayStation has an FMV intro that
that's nice.
That is, that PlayStation often did, but the Sega Saturn port is nearly identical to the arcade.
And that's the one I played this week just because I think Saturn's an interesting console, so I played that version. But there are quite a few Darius games that, and like I said, Darius Twin was the first consumer release, meaning it was the first on a home console. So it was really interesting to get to play one of the arcade releases, which I would say is maybe, I think a fan would say, like a real hardcore fan of Darius would say that's maybe like the truer or better experience, but we'll see. The game puts you in control of the Silver Hawk, which is a spaceship that is tasked with destroying a massive fleet of fish ships that want to kill all fish and ships that want to kill all humans for some reason. You do get a little more in-depth story when you start up the game, but I'm not kidding. That was not that funny.
Not at all.
At all. It's like,
but I'm laughing.
You are. I also wanted to mention, so that's basically the story. I don't think
stories aren't very important when it comes to these kinds of games,
especially not this genre. But I also wanted to mention that this is a co-op game if you have friends.
Gameplay.
Like in other space shooters, you've got branching pathways that you can select to go to different stages that have different enemy patterns, different bosses, different mini bosses, all of those different things. And like the other Darius game, Darius Twin, and I think probably all Darius games, and then also think Star Fox, you've got like stage A that you all begin on, and then that branches to B and C, and you get to select that in between stages between going to that stage. In this game, there are 28 branching pathways labeled A through Z, and also V and Z also.
So you're telling me that was the branching thing was in Twin. I was trying to remember if it was or not. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I freak out in the first play, you were like, yeah.
I mean,
that you should feel familiar.
We played Twin so many years ago. I don't expect you to remember everything about it.
Yeah, but that's such a cool, like, I want to talk about it. Such a cool, like, feature because don't shake your head, Kenny. It adds really interesting replayability to an otherwise, like, pretty linear genre. Like, you would just play the same stages over and over, and I love that you get to kind of, we all had different playthroughs then because we took different paths. I love that.
Which path did you end up taking? I played the game first as Aphajuve.
I didn't spell it out. I don't
are
know.
You pronouncing it? I just went, brrr.
Mine would have been What?
You gotta put all the letters together.
You took the top path. Is that what you're saying?
No, I took the bottom. Kenny took the top.
Yeah, I took the top in my first play, died, and then took the bottom for the rest of the first play, or the rest of my playthrough.
Then I'm a bottom. Kenny's a top, and then you did both.
Stop. This is not what we're doing.
And you do, and I agree. So many different branching pathways that provide for so much replayability because the stages are drastically different from one another. And
yeah, dude.
The bosses are drastically different from one another. And so you and I are correct right now. Let's turn it over to Kenny and hear why he's shrugging and shaking his head no this whole time.
I don't know what the critique is, Kenny.
I'm not. Here's the thing. The replayability is nice. Having a little bit of exploration is nice. It needs it because it ends up being relatively short if you can get through the game, which you can't. The problem is there's no incentive for it. Like, why am I going to take different routes?
I'm sorry. That is why?
Comment. Oh my gosh.
Dumb.
What a dumb comment. For any other game, why
Not
do
a good
this
reason.
thing when I can do this? Well, you do that thing so it can be a different gaming experience, or because I'm not you, or because why would I do Asabajugabdiga when I could do Akajagoof? Like,
or
get
Kenny.
a life.
Or Kenny, because you get stuck on one path and you're like, all right, let me try the other one.
No.
Like, that's the reason.
Give me trade-offs. Make me think about it. Give me a choice. Reward a harder level with more points and an easier level.
You don't care about
you can
points.
do
You're not
so
gonna
many
sit here and
things
tell
to
me.
make it more interesting. And
Whoa.
I know they already were trying to do that. They just didn't take that far enough.
Is this what you felt last time, Dustin?
No, it ends up
I
feeling
guess.
linear, even though it's not, because you're just playing. I don't know.
It is the opposite of linear.
It's fine. It's fine. It adds replayability. It needs it. The game desperately needs it, but they could have done more.
Okay, so maybe you wanted them to say, "This is what you get if you go this path. This is what you get if you go this path." Certain power ups.
Give me separate endings, or
that's a lot to ask for.
More points on a harder level, less points on another level, or give me specific types of power-ups on one route, but different types of power-ups on another. You just gotta give it more flavor. I think it's just variations of the same thing.
The fact that you have the selection is enough of that. That's the mechanic. I don't need more. I just love that you can choose, and I love that when you beat it, you go, "Wow, there's half a game I haven't played."
It's not only that, even something Kenny said is just there are, I believe there are 6, 7, 8 different endings based on which paths you take, based on how many lives you lost, based on if you're playing 1 or 2 player. They did at least one of the things that you mentioned.
If there are dynamic endings based on your pathing, I take most of my criticism back.
Except I'll give back a little bit because I think one of them, even if you beat the game but you're underwater because you chose that as the last stage, you save humanity but you die due to the pressure being crushed underwater.
That's great.
I love that.
Yeah, okay,
that's great.
All right. Yeah,
but also you shouldn't put spaceships underwater, just philosophically.
The Silverhawks go wherever they want, brother.
Yeah. I mean, in the year 2027,
is that when it happens?
I don't know, but maybe their spaceships can go underwater, so I'll give them a break on that one. Like in Darius Twin, you've got your missile that shoots forward. You've got your bombs that are dropping down or end up and down once you get those power ups, and then you've got a shield. With this game, the unique thing. I'm sorry, I may have called those bombs. I'll call those grenades because then you actually have something new for this one, which is a
missiles.
Bomb. Nope. So this is my terminology. Missile is what you're shooting forward. Grenades are what you're dropping, and it's certainly a bomb.
No.
Y'all are insane.
Every one of those things is a terrible
choice. The things
choice.
that you're dropping are shaped and I think called missiles. The things that go in front of you are shots.
You've got guns.
Oh gosh, guys.
Yeah, guns.
Your guns are your guns.
Yeah, they go forward, straight out.
They
beams.
go forward.
Yeah.
You got guns. You got
missiles that you drop.
Bombs or missiles. I probably slightly prefer missiles, but they drop. They're bombs.
They're not.
And then you got a black hole.
Yeah, but that's called a bomb.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give either one of you that terminology. But
no, because we're saying different things.
You cannot call the main shooting mechanic missiles. That's terrible.
This is one of the worst episodes that we've ever done. But not only that,
people are eating this up right now. They
not
have
only that, one of the worst episodes of any podcast. I don't know why anyone would listen to three guys talk about the technicalities behind a game that's super old.
These things are important. These things are important to determine.
I mean, they are, and I will admit on the missile thing, we can call the grenades missiles and the shots. Y'all still don't have a name for that, which is ridiculous. But we most certainly have to call the bomb a bomb because that is what it is. And
I agree.
I'm fine with that. It's a black hole bomb.
A BHB?
Yeah,
I like a BHB.
Which is unique to this series, or to this game. I don't know about unique. It might be in other future titles, but it is distinct from Darius Twin. You did not have a stage clearing bomb that you could throw off. You do in other games. This one is a sick one that's black hole in the center of the screen that not only does damage to everything on the screen and protects you from damage during that time, but it sucks in all of the enemies on the stage as well.
So good.
It does also shoot a bunch of lightning out, which is not how black holes work at all. But we won't get into the physics of it.
The fact that you already brought it up. Yeah, let's start over. No, listen. The black hole is the bomb is a true panic button. And that's why I love it. The BHB is like, and in the first play, I kept forgetting I had it. There were so many moments when I would have been clutch. And once I got that into my mind that I have that option, it's so satisfying when you throw that BHB out there. The other thing I want to say about the power-ups, or how you're leveling up, they do such a good job of making you powerful out the gate. I hate having the pea shooter, and this game pretty much just feeds you like 3 power-ups straight away: the green, the blue, and the red one. And you get one of each. So I think what did we say? The blue ones. The blue ones are shield.
Green upgrades your missile. Red upgrades the length and power of your shot.
Of the gun shot, yeah.
And then the whatever color is left. Green was missile. So blue is your shield, I believe.
Shield. Okay, yeah. So it's they communicate that up front, and then you all of a sudden have like 3. You have like a nice spread. You've got a shield. I really liked that. Now, unlike, if memory serves, unlike Darius Twin, you do lose all your power ups on death. I don't think you did in Darius Twin.
So no, I think it does it much better in this one, which is super interesting because you don't lose all your power-ups.
Right.
It resets to that level that you were currently on, the first part of that level. So, it's hard to explain this, but in Darius Twin, it was just a linear path. You were going from A to Z when it comes to power-ups.
Yes.
In this one, I think they each have 3 divisions. So, level 1 is 3 divisions, level 2 is 3 divisions, level 3 is 3 divisions of each of those: missile, shield, and whatever. So, when you die, you're reset to the beginning of that level, not the beginning of everything. So you're probably never going to see the pea shooter again as long as you don't die straight away.
But you are going to lose some of the super shields.
That's the problem with these games is it assumes that's the case.
Right?
And then people die. And when they're so snowbally that you get really, really, really awesome upgrades if you can keep them, but that if you're slightly less good at the game and just scraping by, you're going to have a really hard time keeping all of those upgrades, which then makes the game more difficult. And it's this sort of like self-defeating cycle of kicking people that are down. It's not a good way to handle it.
How else would you handle it?
Differently.
See... Well, in Twin, I think the way they tried to handle that is that you keep exactly what you had when you come back from dying if you have credits. So that's one way, but that wasn't good enough for you then, or me, I guess. But I think that's a fine progression tool, Kenny, because you're not gonna beat the boss even on the first stage with just a pea shooter. I mean, you can, but it's gonna feel terrible. It's going to feel super terrible. And some of the later bosses, if you don't have a nice spread, you're not going to hit the weak point while also dodging. You're just not. So I think it's fine.
I don't have a solution for fixing it, but I do empathize with Kenny's frustration in that some of these games punish you for being bad. Now listen, I understand.
Absolutely.
I understand that.
That's fine.
No,
I'm a Dark Souls player.
No. Games should have a way of, if you are significantly bad, helping you to be better. And in this, if you're bad, it's laughing in your face and telling you you're about to do worse. Because when you come back, you're set up in a worse position than you were when you died right before.
Right, and possibly right in the middle of all the action still happening.
Y'all don't understand.
You die and then can't even really recover. It's not great.
Dustin does understand because he plays these games. Those types of game setups are the most rewarding. Getting better at a game feels much better than in Mario when you die too much, they give you a star at the beginning and you just go beat the stage.
I think there's a balance is what I'm saying. I don't think it should just hand it to you. But I think that this one struggles with that. I think the difficulty, if we're going to just straight get into it, is significantly more unfair than Darius Twin was.
I think so too, and I think it's because it's an arcade title first and not a console title first.
Yep. And
because arcade games.
Yep, and it's meant not for beating, but for taking your quarters.
Exactly. And that's the arcade dilemma. We come across that every time we play an arcade game, and so there's the frustration of that here for sure.
Darius Twin was also a very hard game. I mean, the genre is a hard genre, and like that's fine. But like, I don't know. This one felt more punishing when things didn't go your way. I don't know if overall I felt like it was more difficult. I actually felt like it may have been slightly easier than Darius Twin, but I thought Darius Twin was much too hard.
I don't think it was easier.
It's crazy how different the experiences can be, and I don't put this just on the branching pathways.
No,
it's got to be something else, man, because what this game requires, in my mind, requires something different than Darius Twin. Again, I've got legacy experience there, but I can get to one of the last stages in Darius Twin before losing all my lives, or even before dying. Like I could later in the week, I can get through this first stage without dying even once, but it ramps up incredibly quickly in difficulty here to where stage 2 or 3, I've lost all my. I'm putting in tokens and tokens and tokens again, and then just save scumming at that point to try to do anything.
And again, I think on Darius Twin, this first of all, Gaiden is more of a bullet hell.
Yes,
at times,
much.
like 100%.
Agreed.
And I think it's because consoles couldn't do that without extreme frame rate issues. So that's why it's automatically easier to a lot of people. Kenny, I don't know why you think this is easier, but this one, a lot of the time, was like bullet hell. And Dustin, I think you like those, and I find enjoyment in those too. And so, like, it was fun while being very challenging, but it felt like an arcade game that said, give me money. Like, every time I died, I was like, okay, you jerks.
Right. And let me be clear, the only bullet hell that I've actually liked is Tohu 7 Perfect Cherry Blossom, so don't...
But that's the most egregious, like, example, I think.
I mean, I know, but there was something special about that game. Bullet hell I don't typically like... and not to get into it, but Perfect Cherry Blossom I still think is fair. It's insane, but it's fair.
It's insane.
When it's bullet hell, and then on top of that, the enemies are bullet sponges. And the thing that I didn't like here is that so many, even with getting power-ups, I wasn't feeling largely the power progression. In Darius Twin, I was, because the enemies and even the bosses, I could, if I wasn't dying and I was soaking up those power-ups, I could defeat fairly quickly, fairly handily, and they weren't giving it to me here. Even with the power-ups, I felt like the enemies were powering up just as much as I was, and they were soaking up, not even the bosses, just the character, the ships coming at me during the stage. Some, even with power-ups, I couldn't defeat in enough time, and I had to get out of the way. I don't like that.
I don't like that either. And again, it felt artificial. Like, it felt like it didn't have to be that way. It was just a little bit it was tuned a little bit more towards dying because they wanted you to put more quarters in.
Yeah.
Instead, Twin was tuned the other way, where it rewards the player. And I think Twin, I mean, I know I didn't give it New Game Plus, but I feel like that's a better, if you're going to choose between the two, it feels better to be able to kill things. If the sponge thing, I hate way more than the bullet thing. The bullet sponge thing feels so bad because it's like, okay, like just get it over with.
Yeah, I've been shooting at you for years. Die already, you know?
Yeah.
But because of that, you did get to see some of the more phases, moves of bosses. Like in some of these other games, you can kill things pretty quickly, but in this one, like the bosses can get pretty elaborate. And I did enjoy the boss fights. That thought they were pretty cool, but they were very challenging.
They were hard, but they felt diverse. They stayed on the Darius theme really well. Like the bosses were cool looking and had a number of different things. Like some other places in the game, but especially in the bosses, you really kind of had to learn patterns to succeed at them, which is always a little bit of a drag. But diverse, looked good. Overall, I thought they did a good job on the bosses here.
Speaking of bosses, there are like mini bosses kind of in the middle of stages. Was this in Twin where you can capture them or you can get the orb?
No, that's here and is kind of unique.
I think that's pretty cool.
Here, kind of unique, and I would have never figured out on my own.
Yeah.
Yes. Agreed, agreed.
But once you do, it's that's so
fun,
it's
such a cool thing if you can do it.
Yeah,
if you can do it. It's even hard to pull off.
That's the one in the first stage you're talking about having to bail on, probably, because I also you can't get enough bullets in it in time.
So the idea is novel here with the mini bosses in the stage. Some of them, they have these orbs on top of their head, and if you don't destroy them, which is counter to everything that you've been doing in the game so far, and you just destroy that top orb, then it releases for such a short amount of time. And if you're able to get through all the bullets that are coming at you and get to that orb, then for the next 30 seconds or so, you have on your side that mini boss, which is super helpful, but they're also much bigger than you, so they're soaking up all the damage. And again, 30 seconds later, I never had them for a boss encounter, which would have been nice. I just had them for a little bit more of the stage. So I thought it's a cool little gimmick, but being able to make it happen was very difficult.
Yeah.
But
difficult.
I don't want to leave the bosses because I think that's what this series is largely about. It's these massive fish or aquatic themed bosses, but they're not a fish. It's a spaceship in the form of a fish. The first boss was probably one of the more iconic ones in my opinion. It was so cool watching it on your first play, Nolan, because you noticed it in the background, which was so cool.
Dude,
you noticed it.
That is so sick.
Far in the distance, and you're like, man, look at that fish. And then you're like, there's no way that's going to be the boss.
I know.
And a little bit later, it leaves the front of the screen, and then it swings into the forefront, and you're fighting this yellow fang-tooth kind of creature, and as you begin to shoot it, its armor peels off, and you can and starts to shards of it fly at you. With the different phases of the bosses and the look of the bosses and the way that they show up on the scene with the warning screen and everything, I think that's some of the most iconic parts of this series and of this game.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. That warning bell, although I will say some of the boss names are absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, they're bad. Almost all of them are bad.
I wish they were just Kenny Fish puns.
Golden Ogre is good. That's the first one. But then you've got like what? Electric Fan, Fatty Glutton. You've got...
That's the one that made me laugh the most.
Like clearly Japanese translated
Even phrases. The final boss is called Great Thing.
Great Thing.
Great Thing. Yep.
Yeah, they just took literal translations.
I think you're right. They didn't come up with anything new for us. They were just like,
I love it. That's fine.
I bet they're very creative names over there, but over here,
Golden Ogre's
Great Thing. Golden Ogre's, that's great. Yeah. Again, they put a best foot forward in that. They're showing off right away. There was one or two that I recognized. So, like, I don't know if they were directly recurring from earlier games, but for example, what was it, King Fossil in this one? It's like a bass, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
There were other versions of that, at least in Darius Twin, so it was really cool to see those show up again.
Did Twin come after? I don't remember.
Came before,
Twins before.
because this is the fifth one,
Twins,
right?
Yeah,
and
Twins
this
Super
is...
Nintendo, 1991-ish.
Okay,
So,
cool.
It was Darius in 1987, Darius 2, and then Darius Twin, Darius Force, and then Gaiden.
Okay. Yeah. That's really cool that they... I mean, it's not reused, but like you recognize. I always love when they bring back bosses
callbacks.
Or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. I beat the game this week.
With save states, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I tried.
But I can't even explain to you how I was having to use save states. I was
every
having
5
to use
seconds.
save states after dodging almost every single bullet to try to get through this game.
But
it's bad.
Right. No, I agree, Nolan. I did not want to do that. In fact,
I know.
After my first experiences this week and getting I didn't want to come back and beat it, but this morning I was like, you know what, let me give it one more shot. Let me play it some more. So I was able to beat the final boss, but still, even with save states like that, I had to spend over half an hour on this boss, not just because I was dying a lot, although I was, but because that boss, like other bosses, but especially this one, takes, and I was fully upgraded.
Long.
Obscenely long. Obscenely long.
Yes.
Okay.
Egregiously.
You're gonna spend as much time on that final boss as it took you to clear 4 or 5 other stages.
Because of phases, or because it's just a sponge?
It repeats phases.
He just soaks. You just fight him and 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 fight him.
See.
And you're like, does he ever die? Am I missing something?
Right.
And then you fight him a little more, and then a little more, and then you're like, something's wrong. And then finally he dies, and you're like, oh no, that was just a bad choice.
And the thing is, if you die on the boss, which you inevitably will, then it's going to take even longer because you suck more gun-wise. And then you're going to die again, and then you're going to suck even more. And there's what could have helped, and I've seen this in other games, is that on the boss, there's something that they do that drops power-ups so that you're able to get back to where you were. And they didn't do that. Once you're in a boss battle, you're there. Yeah. And you either beat it with what you have or become lower, but you never can get better. And that's one thing that they could have tweaked.
Aged.
We already said branching pathways are a good thing, and Kenny said it's not. So I think that helps it age because you can always. You did.
No, I said their implementation could have been better, and I wanted more choices. I always want more choices. These games are kind of mindless. Like, you got to pay attention to what you're doing. But I want to be thinking. I want to have to choose between weapons, not just take a linear weapon path. I want to have trade-offs for the routes that I'm going, not just, pick whichever one feels good that day. I don't know. There's kind of shallow, the genre.
Golly. Well,
typical versions of the genre.
You can only play 7 stages at a time if you're going through playing straight and beating the game. So there are multiple variations of how you can play this game. I think it's very easy to come back to multiple times if you enjoy this game or games like this.
Yeah, and you can't say that for arcade games as a whole. You really can't.
Right.
That's what I really love about this title, because there's more to the game than your first playthrough, and that's never the case with shmups, so that's fine. In fact, that's a huge positive aging factor for me. And if you're playing co-op too, which we didn't get to do, then that's a whole nother world too.
It's a whole nother world, and I feel like it would make it
go.
more enjoyable because
it might be tuned around co-op.
I think it's got to be, which it would make sense because an arcade playing with someone else is what you're often doing. But it doesn't change the amount of power-ups on the screen or enemies on the screen. I think the game is the same. You just have 2 players. So that I'm thinking, well, if I'm killing the things twice as fast because I have 2 players, then maybe it doesn't feel as spongy. Which, that's good for 2 players.
But you're supposed to tweak it.
But then that's bad for the single player experience.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case, but I think
it is.
We're suspicious. We're looking at you, Taito. That's weird.
Gonna be showing up at your offices. We have some questions.
I definitely felt that sort of conflict of you could tell they wanted to suck your coins, but that dying made the game harder thing that we already talked about really bad here. And I was going to say, and generally arcade games tend to age pretty well just because of the look and the feel and as a genre. But this one, I felt like the arcadeness of it kind of took away from the experience. I almost wish they had retuned it for console, and tried to address that sort of vibe. Because, man, if I had been in an arcade and gotten mad enough to determine that I was going to beat this game, it would have cost me so much money.
But I think that's a good conversation, because largely, and maybe you disagree with me, but I don't think arcade games are first and foremost meant to be beaten. They're meant to play 5-10 minutes at max, probably not even 10 minutes, 5 minutes, enjoy it, and move on to the next game. And if you're doing that, I think you're experiencing this game in one dimension. But if you're at home trying to beat this whole thing, which you do at home, you're trying to experience the whole thing, it's a whole different beast.
Yeah, and I'm okay with arcades being that. I'm not going to really hold that against the game, because that's what they were originally for, and the fact that it is on home console, it's on Saturn, it's on PC. I think there are some tweaks in terms of how credits work. I'm not sure exactly what they did, but I mean, you're obviously not giving the game money, so I don't know. I think the arcade conversation is going to always come up, and to me, that's okay, and I'm okay with bite-sized game sessions.
It also, and again, you don't want to do this, but if you're at an arcade and you want to pour enough change into the game, you can see the end of it. It may be very hard because of that punishing sort of reset mechanic here. But like, if you're gonna die and put in a quarter and like chug your way through, you can. In the home version, you don't necessarily have that, because you have a limited amount of continues. They could have just taken that cap off of the continues so that you could see your way all the way through the game, even if it was going to be painful, and then give you a huge like score deduction at the end, like divide your score in half for each time you hit continue or something, so that like there's reward, but let you get through the whole game if you want to. But it was just in a weird in between. It wasn't a home console game tuned for that. It wasn't sort of felt like it was in the arcade, and I just struggled there with kind of feeling like it fit.
Now, I want to talk about the music. It was composed by Taito's in-house band named Zuntata, and it is so good. A lot of this... Yeah, go ahead.
I think people are going to be divided on if it's good for this game, though.
Oh, I think it is. I think that when you have I think Cherry Blossom did this too, and that's what I really loved. But when you have chaos happening on the screen, I want to hear a jazz piano and some chill singing. It's very vibey, and I think it fits perfectly. I really enjoyed it, and a lot of the tracks are, I mean, they're different, but like it's got its own tone and theme, and you can tell by the first stage, and it's so good.
Here's the thing. Nolan, sometimes you get it right on music, and sometimes you say stuff like that, and we're actually underselling it, because this thing blew my mind.
It's so good.
It was the best part of this game.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell it's a full-on band.
Okay, so we all agree.
I loved it.
I'm glad we all agree.
I loved it so much.
We had heard Zuntata before, because they also did Bubble Bobble. They also did other Darius games, Ninja Warriors, which I don't think we played on the show. But on this one, man, they don't hold back. They went all out. They had vocals. They had that girl. And sometimes the themes of a concluding stage would kind of pick up, like a concluding boss battle would pick up in the next one, but like on a more subdued... I love it.
It's like full OST. It's so sick. It's very listenable. I recommend people that like are listening to this go like actually just listen to the OST. It's so good.
It is. It may not do it for everybody, and yes, some people may want something like vibier, like workout music for this genre. I think it fits perfectly. I'm with you, Nolan, and it also is very Japanese, like very in some places, and again, maybe not everybody will like that just for taste in music, but it worked for me. And yeah, I'm with you guys. So good.
I think that it is very connected to the psychedelic nature of what you're getting visually as well. Like you're going... it will take you for a ride. That's a song that was on some game that we played. But like the whole, like it's psychedelic. It's a drug trip. It feels like musically and visually you're going through this experience, a hallucination, because the divider in between stage has this psychedelic feel, but even like the backgrounds and what's going on, the alien forces that you're facing. And then fish.
That whole theme works so well. I love the Darius vibe of. I know I made fun of underwater spaceships, but that whole like blurring of those lines of aquatic creatures and space, like as a theme, works really well.
So well.
But the graphics, like you said, the arcade graphics are on display here, and it looks so fantastic. Like, and we mentioned it earlier, but the first stage you get to see there's a lot of depth to the stages, and you see the boss in the background. You know, that whole it flying around and meeting you in the front. It looked really good on Saturn. I don't know if they tweaked a lot of the visuals between those two versions. I think it was very similar, like pretty much just a straight port. It's so good. And there's a lot going on. So
a lot going on, and you don't get much slowdown even on console, and if you do, you probably want it to avoid the bullets. Yeah. Obviously I haven't seen them all, but I think this is probably top of the line 2D arcade space shooter on a visual level. Like it just looks spectacular. Darius is a series that has had 5 arcade releases, 3 home console releases, and then a few spin-offs as well. So plenty in the Darius series if that's your kind of thing.
I love when we come across games that have several in the series, and that means we're going to come across them eventually, and I like to compare and see which one's going to be the better one, you know?
It's so fun.
Always fun. Like, I mean, being able to have Darius Twin as a reference point for us. And
so good.
That's why we've got to do this for another 10 years. 7 years. 7. We'll do 14 total.
14?
No, actually, we got to do 777. That's 14 plus 7, which we all know is 20. Let's say it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. 24.
14, 23.
20. I mean, Kenny, what's your guess?
21.
All right. If you want a copy of Darius Gaiden, you can get one for your home. This is for Sega Saturn. $32 used. $130 new, so more affordable than $300. And arcade not that you can't. I'm pretty looked, and usually when we play arcade games, I try to look and see if you can get a cabinet for it. I'm not entirely sure what they did here. I did see a picture this week because it's not a vertical, it's horizontal. What I saw was 3 kind of vertical screens side by side attached.
That wasn't this one. So a number of the other Darius games have the like multiple screen situation. This one overtly moved away from that. Probably part of why you didn't see it was because the way they did this was this whole like new F3 system thing where you've got a cab, but you can like change the games that are being played on it or something like that. I don't know exactly how it works. So you probably needed to look for like a generic cabinet that could host this game and not like a specific cabinet that was this game. It's kind of interesting the direction they took there.
And it has 3 vertical screens.
After all that, he's still sticking with what he thinks is right.
Yeah, Kenny did his research, I guess. There is, by the way, you can play Darius Gaiden. 2019, the Darius Cosmic Collection released for the Switch and PS4 that has many of the games. Unfortunately, there's seriously 10 or 12 different versions of the game, and so depending on which version you have, you may or may not have Gaiden on it. So just make sure you're getting the right one.
That's odd.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. Nolan, the fish is in your chips.
This is such a weird game to talk about. I don't quite remember my main beef with Darius Twin. So playing an arcade release from them, I felt like was a palate cleanser of sorts. And I am okay with games being punishing. I'll just get that out of the way. I think that's going to be a big point of a big deciding point for all of us, or for anyone playing this game. And for me, I'm perfectly fine with it. For an arcade game, I'm also perfectly fine with slow progression where you may never see the end, or if you do, you have to get really good. It'll take a while. And the other mechanics in this game and the music made me want to keep playing it this week. And I played it quite a bit. I tried to, and I didn't use save states. Every time I lost, I started over. And I really, really like it. And so I think that it's definitely worth playing. So I give it a game plus.
That's one yes.
I did something this week that I rarely do. I changed my mind in the course of the episode.
Oh, you rarely do that.
I rarely do that.
Because you
almost...
for the past, I don't know, year or so, you have straight up pre-written your final thoughts.
Yeah, and I have them, but I'm going to modify them on the fly.
Okay.
Here's what was going to be said. I don't know. This one is pretty good, but I'm bad, but I shouldn't blame it. It looks and sounds good, and so I'm going to overlook the fact that I'm bad and say, yeah, probably. But the more we talked about it, the more I just realized that it's not just that I'm bad, but that this game is punishing and hard and could have been better and could have offered so much more. And maybe some of that was because I was whining about things I wanted that were unrealistic. I don't know. But the more I think back to my experience playing the game, I didn't have fun. I think I had more fun playing Darius Twin. And again, this game looks amazing, sounds amazing, does some things really well, and if you're into the genre, you'll probably like it. But even though I thought I was going to say yes, I can't. No New Game Plus from me. Sorry.
That's one yes, Whoa. That's one no, and so it comes down to me, your side-scrolling shooter aficionado. Aficionado!
Okay.
Fishy! Why didn't you think of it earlier?
That's so good, and it wasn't intentional. All right, let's go. I love RPGs. I like side-scrolling space shooters. So this isn't like my genre, but I do like them, and I had some experience with them growing up. One of those in particular was Darius Twin, which we all know, we've said it many times on this episode and many others, that I loved and still love Darius Twin. In fact, I played it this week again just to go back to it. And so this is my second experience with the Darius series, and Darius Gaiden is an incredibly unique psychedelic trip experience, and I'm glad that I played it, and I certainly don't think that it is worth playing today. It is the difficulty. It's crazy that this is where we're coming at with this week, because
you sound like us on the last time we played a Darius game.
The difficulty is unfair. And choose one. Either choose bullet hell, but not a sponge boss. I do think, I'm going back to it. And Taito, again, I'll talk to you about this, and you can come on the show and defend yourself if you want to. But I think that they had it tweaked for a 2-player experience. On top of that, an arcade limited time experience, and bringing that to a home console. Even if I was in the arcade, if I'm playing it by myself, okay? So take away home console and we'll just do the play by myself, because that's what we're always doing here in 2022. It's not playable. It's not playable past the first couple of stages. And I am good at these. And Nolan, I will say that watching your first play, you've improved, all right? You did well. Okay. But man, if I would love to watch, I don't know if I'd love to watch Kenny play this, but it would be interesting.
I would not.
At least for a little bit, to see how great he is at it. All that to say, that's just a lot of talking to say, man, I was so excited going into it this week. Even the first stage, I was like, okay, I'm vibing in that first boss. I'm vibing. But even in the first stage, I was starting to feel, I'm not doing enough damage. I'm not doing enough damage. What's happening? And that only got worse as the stages progressed. There's so much good here. It's beautiful. The bosses are pretty cool and unique. The stages are diverse. There's a lot of replayability. But the main replayability is you starting the first and second stage over and over again because it is way too difficult. And I do not give it my vote for New Game Plus status, which means Darius Gaiden is not New Game Plus certified.
Wow. What? I wouldn't have been able to predict anything on this episode, including what I think.
Including what you think.
What the heck?
It's interesting. We'll get to it, but one of our viewers that wrote in actually predicted, and so we'll see if they got their predictions correctly. Okay. Predicted what we would vote. So before we get there, 152 votes on YouTube. 27% said yes, it's worth playing today. 5% said no, and 67% have never played it before.
Okay, so we may be in the minority here again, and I feel like it was the same way with Darius Twin. It's a loved franchise, and I think for clear reasons that we all understand. But
that's why I'm curious to hear from our community.
Right, and I think they're split as well. The Tasty Yogurt said, "Never played a Darius game, never really heard of it. Face-paced side-scrolling shoot 'em up." I think he meant fast. I played for a while in a web browser and got about halfway through before it actually froze up on me. Not sure how that happened. I played enough to know that this game is not for me. I don't care for this genre. However, I can see others really enjoying this game. The black hole special bomb thing that sucks up enemy projectiles and deals damage is pretty cool. The weapon upgrades are nice. There's just way too much happening on the screen at once. Sometimes the projectiles even blend in with the backdrop or are just incredibly small and easy to miss. It's just simply not a game for me. That being said, I can see why it appeals to people, especially those who like shmups. Even though I didn't care for it, it does get NGP status from me.
Why?
Yeah, we're just...
You're wrong. You don't like it, no NGP.
But
That's
here
fine.
are the predictions. Dustin, yes. Kenny, no. Nolan, no. So he did get 1 out of the 3.
So a three-peat of last time is what they were predicting?
Garlisle said, there are a lot of things I like in Darius Gaiden. The stages and patterns are plentiful and varied. The visual dynamics, the soundtrack, style, distinct, multi-part bosses, even little touches like the control orbs just on mini-bosses is cool. However, having played this week on console with limited continues, my praise stops at its difficulty. As was common for the era, it ramps up invisibly when you do well to make sure you die, and then death ramps down your power to make sure you die again, with losing piercing against certain bosses being a miserable experience, and in just slightly too high bullet density for the ship size. And yeah, the game was a quarter muncher, not just by quality but by force. It's the best Darius game I've played, and I get why it ranks so highly in shmup communities, but you really need a tolerance for the old shmup style of difficulty on this one, or to be playing with infinite continues where you can just enjoy the spectacle.
You know, I just thought about having to play it on an actual arcade with the joystick, and I think my movements would be so bad with the joystick.
Oh yeah, I used D-pad this week, right?
I did too, because you can tap it really quick. You know, like.
Kenny did VR.
You did VR?
Yeah, I used a dance pad.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, someone used a dance pad to beat Melania.
Yeah, I watched her do it. She's insane.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, her character's level 1 too, by the way. Yeah. Oh. No, she's insane. She's insane at the game. It's really cool.
Oh my goodness. Super Gamer Guy.
Okay.
Super Gamer Guy said Darius Gaiden is one of the oddest shmups I have ever played. On the one hand, I love sitting down this week and beating the game several times, just taking everything in as I mowed down waves of space fish. On the other hand, I'm not sure this game does anything better than other titles from the genre. The visuals are high quality, sure, and the gameplay mechanics are fun to mess around with, but the sheer difficulty of this one is troubling. It doesn't take too much to destroy your ship, and the scarce shield drops can only help so much against the nearly random attack patterns of the game's bosses. The difficulty got so bad that I was just infinitely respawning by the end, just spamming my black hole bombs before I died yet again. Couple that with the unsettling choral music and the garish psychedelic background effects, and I hesitate to recommend this title to anyone but die-hard shmup fans. I definitely enjoyed it, but I don't think many others will. NGP status only for the spectacle of it all.
All right, y'all are confused. If you don't like the game, you don't have to give it New Game Plus. Y'all are pulling a Kenny is what you're doing.
Yeah, that is definitely a Ken. Although I mentioned it just briefly when you started talking about the musical score. I can see how people would be divided with the music and the psychedelic graphics. I think like that's a vibe, that's a thing, and if you're vanilla, you won't like it. But if you like that vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry all together, which we call a metropolitan, then
Metropolitan?
What is it called? Metropolitan?
Neo?
No, you're wrong, and you're also wrong. Vanilla's the best flavor, and the soundtrack is good.
Vanilla's not the best flavor, you noob.
Vanilla?
Dutch chocolate.
And then finally, Corkster said Darius Gaiden falls in an awkward growing stage between old school shmups and today's more eminently playable ones. It still wears the garments of quarter-chugging arcade games, what with its momentum-ceasing loss of power-ups on death and a chonky hitbox surrounded by dangerous terrain and tricky enemies. But I'll go up to bat for this game for its style alone. The soundtrack, while sometimes weird, perfectly accentuates Darius's underwater creature themes. The scenery is gorgeous too. Many of the game's bosses are orchestrated along with the music and the stages, and the effect is downright cinematic at times. It's a shame that this game is so very unforgiving. Taito will eventually come closer to fairness in G Darius, but Darius Gaiden feels like a memorable stepping stone. NGP status, but play on easy mode and give yourself lots of continues, or better yet, watch a long play and let yourself be mesmerized.
What I'm hearing is the coding is bad, like the damage values, the bullet values, but everything else, the style is
packaging?
Insane.
That's what I would say.
We've limited ourselves to just thumbs up or thumbs down. This is one of those that if we were allowed to have nuance, we would be like, check out this game. You won't beat it, and once you die, like play it until you're not having fun anymore. But then stop, and you'll kind of dig some things. I don't know. It's a weird one.
Well, thank you for sending in your thoughts on the Retro Game of the Week. For now, we're going to set it aside, and we're not going to randomly select our next game because, like we said, next episode is 350. It's our 7-year anniversary. So, unfortunately, you are not going to be able to play any game this week.
Don't touch your controller. Rule. Don't touch your PC. You can't play anything. You're not allowed to.
We are fasting this week from video games in preparation for our 7-year anniversary. That's obviously not true, but I think it's the one time out of the year where we're not playing a game together as a community.
Yeah, that is very true.
So what will you be playing this week, Nolan?
I don't want to say.
It's still PoE?
It's still Path of Exile, yeah.
Kenny, what are you playing?
So you got a new action RPG that you recommended to me to check out that I'm still playing through a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
Last Epoch is in beta, and I'm still working my way through it.
Beta fish, nice.
And I'll probably play some other of the, like, I play them consistently types of games, but no one cares about my chess addiction or anything.
They do. That's why
we're asking, and that's why.
So, Slay the Spire.
Well, then I'll also play chess, which is not a video game technically, even though I play it on the computer. So it's good. It doesn't count. This would actually be a really good week though to go back and finish some of the games that I've always threatened to like revisit or finish.
But that's not gonna happen.
I don't think I will. But for our community, if there's any of those that were like, I want to go back and do it again, do it. Now's your chance.
And no one ever asks me, but I am going to finish Assassin's Creed Valhalla because I have come back to it. I let our community know in VIP, but
how's Thor and Loki?
Again. I have not seen them again since I started playing.
So when you said you came across them, literally the Marvel renditions of Thor and Loki?
Yes. It doesn't. Yes. Thor comes down from the sky. He looks like Christopher Hemmies, and
Christopher Hemorrhoids.
And so I stopped playing a year or so ago. I have come back to it, and now I came back to it I think like a week or two ago, and I had only put in like 22 hours when I had stopped, and now I'm at 80 hours. So this last week or so I've been playing significantly. I kind of want to just get through it, but it's
I know you don't like it.
So those are the games that we're going to be playing. What games are you going to be playing? You can come and let us know. Where would they let us know though, Nolan?
Probably in our Discord server, discord.gg/newgameplus.
Or text me if you want.
His phone number is
6.
I'm not giving him a phone number. Thank you to those of you who support us on patreon.com.
6.
Yeah, just 6.
That's him.
We got a large group of producers who helped to support our 300 and almost 50 episodes worth of content. Y'all should give shout-outs to each other for being awesome, including Adam, Alex, Marlene, Anton, and Ben, Brunt, Dan, DH, Bowser, Francesca, Gimbin, Jerry, Jared, Joey, Jordan, J. Robert, Justin, Glenn, Nick Nag, Corey, Lawai86, Maxima, Mr. Latte, Sajan, Shauna, Subsonic Demon, Thomas, Unbedevil, William, and Zion. We also have an amazing list of director supporters, including Bro Jim, Garlisle, Shane, and the Tasty Yogurt.
Yum.
And guys, I'm super hyped because I've got something cool to tell you.
What?
You're pregnant.
Picked up another director level supporter this week.
Too many.
Super Hypered is now
Super Hypered.
a director level supporter
Super.
of New Game Plus. So can't wait to get to know him a little bit and have our director episode with him. With them, I don't know who this person is.
Super.
They're super though.
Hypered.
Hypered.
Can't wait to have you on the show again.
Thanks.
Tasty, we haven't had Tasty's episode yet, but we're getting done with our 7-year anniversary, and then we'll be with Tasty's Yogurt in a couple of weeks. Can't wait. You can find more about that on patreon.com/NGP podcast and all of our other socials. We got Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we celebrate our 7-year anniversary. Literally join us next week.
Yeah. Be there.
Show up
there.
and be on the show.
Be on the show, talk to your bros, pitch your game, and hopefully get it submitted, picked even for episode 351. Until then, I'm still Cod.
I'm still Trout. Man.
Flounder.
Okay, wow. I don't know if we've ever successfully unified there, but I appreciate it.
Shark.
Well, I mean, still, that's in the community.
What?
We're fine.
You just gonna keep going? Orca.
Jellyfish. And this has been New Game Plus.